Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
This is my second color figure painting. This was a limited palette, so the colors that I used were flake white, cadmium red light, yellow ochre, and ivory black. I'm pretty disappointed with how this painting turned out. This painting I worked on right after my summer break, so maybe I was rusty or something, but I feel like the whole painting process, I really fumbled around and struggled a lot. So this figure painting took 5 weeks, and the first week I worked on a transfer drawing in charcoal, and I think the transfer drawing turned out pretty decently. But when I transferred the drawing onto the canvas, the last figure painting that I did, I painted it pretty thinly, and in my mind I was thinking a lot about Sargent and Rembrandt and how they paint thicker, and you can, especially Sargent, you can definitely see the individual brush strokes with a lot of thick paint. So I really wanted to try that for this painting because I like that look of paintings better, being able to see how paint is being laid down rather than having things be painted super thinly. So when I was working on this, I was so concentrated and obsessed with how I was literally laying the paint down and painting technique that I just kept dropping the ball on the two most important things, which is drawing and value. And so with laying paint down thickly, I would lose the drawing and lose the value structure, so then I would go back and try and fix the drawing and value structure. But then when I felt like I had that back together, I would want to start painting thickly again, and then I would just kind of start losing control of everything. And that being said, I definitely want to push to have more interesting brushwork because I do prefer that look in paintings, but I think I need to make sure that I'm mostly focused on drawing, value, and color, and in that order. When I'm fixing things, I need to make sure that the drawing's solid, and then I move on to value, make sure the value is solid, then move on to color, make sure the color is solid, and painting technique should really come after that when I think those three things are feeling a little bit more natural to me. A big thing that I learned with this painting though is color mixing. So on my palette with those 4 colors, which was white, black, red, and yellow, I would make rows of colors that I would mix, and those rows would be in a value scale. And so maybe the top row would be yellow, and then orange, and then red, and then purple, then blue, then green. And I would take those mixtures, and since we do paint under natural light for these, so some days, if it's a cloudy day, she'd be really colorful, and then on sunny days, she would be really gray, which I know is counterintuitive, but the cloudy days are actually the best and most colorful. So when I would do those mixtures, I would either make those mixtures more intense or more grayed down, but I would still just have the value scales of those colors like the yellows, reds, greens, blues. And so I would apply all of those colors onto the whole entire painting, and the painting was looking really weird and like it didn't have a naturalistic look, and it didn't really look like skin, and I was having a lot of trouble with it. And so what I was doing, instead of mixing all those rows of colors, I would focus on an area that I wanted to work on. Like maybe I would work on this upper part, and everything that I would mix a color on my palette, hold the palette knife up to the model's shoulder, say, and keep mixing until I could get that color as close as possible. And so I would do that for all the colors that I wanted to apply to this area. And so I was mixing really specific colors for an area. So say I got done with this area, and then I wanted to work on the foot, say. And so the foot is pretty pink and purpley, and you definitely see a lot of pinks and purples on her shoulder and her chest area. But because the foot is so far away from the light source, it's going to be more grayed down than up here. So even if the values are similar and I wanted to have a pink that's in the same value as down here, this one would be really vibrant and this one would be really grayed down. And so I realized when I was mixing before with mixing those value scales of rows of colors, if I try and apply that way to the whole entire painting, it's those are really generic colors and they can't apply to the whole painting because maybe this pink is really vibrant and maybe the pink down here is more pinkish, purplish, grayer. So it really makes more sense to mix up specific colors for a specific area, and then knowing if you're going to move to a different spot of the painting, you're probably going to have to mix up specific colors for that area and not apply the colors that you mix for here down there. And so that is a really good lesson that I learned, even though I learned it pretty late, so I couldn't apply it too much to this whole painting. And so overall, I did learn stuff from this painting, even though I really don't like this painting, but it was kind of learn what not to do for the next one, which is still valuable lessons. And I feel like this painting, maybe if I got it to this stage, maybe in the second week instead of the 5th week, I could still have a lot of time to make it more sophisticated, because especially when you get up close to it, I think that it's just kind of looks like it's sloppily done and not up to the quality of my other work, which is probably the thing that's most disappointing for me, is because for each piece that I do, I don't want to get it on the same level as my last piece. I want to always be taking it up a level and getting better and better and better and better. And I think especially compared to my last color figure painting, this painting is not only not on the same level as that one, but pretty far below it, which is pretty disappointing. But I feel like now I know what more to do for my next one. And like always, I take a picture at the end of each day working on this, starting my transfer drawing, up to painting, and then up to the finished painting. So I will show you the time lapse of that.